I took this 35 USD account from this client and I flipped it to over 400 USD. So in this video, I'll be teaching you the reasons behind the entries, how to enter and where to enter, and why and where to exit. So keep watching to learn how you can flip your own account as well. If you're watching this on TikTok, click this link. If you're watching this on Facebook, click this link, or just go to YouTube and search prime_fx to go over to my YouTube channel where you can finish this video and also watch other complete videos as well. Let's get this video to over 300 likes. So the first trade we took is on Boom 300 index and it was a buy setup. So the reason behind that entry is simple. The market was forming, or the market structure was a bullish market structure. So you can tell from the market how it was moving down. It was making lower lows and lower highs, lower lows and lower highs, and then it makes a change of character. And afterwards, after it makes a change of character, it respects the bullish order block and then shoots up to make another change of character, or this time you can tell it's sort of like a BOS. So it's now signaling that price wants to reverse to the upside. So when it retraces back down to the order block, we capture and entered the buy from there, and we milked till the top there, and we made about 80 something USD in profits. That's when I decided to close, and we headed to the next setup, which is on VIX 25S. Okay, so that's the 35 USD that was deposited, and that's the 82 USD we made. Total amount brings it to 117 USD. So moving on to the VIX 25S, on the daily we can see that price is forming a reversal formation or reversal pattern, and what we're going to have to do is to sort of look what is happening within that range. And when we mark out the range, we mark the low of that range, which contains the sell side liquidity, and we mark out the high of that range, which contains the buy side liquidity. So what we focus on is what price was doing before and what is doing currently within that range. So when you zoom into the 4-hour chart, what we get to see is that on the left, or what it was doing before, it was moving up, forming high highs and high lows while it was breaking those highs. So it broke that high, and then it broke another high, and the last high it broke was there. And afterwards, so there's that break of structure, and afterwards, if you have been watching my video, or if you know a little bit of SMC, you know what it does afterwards, which is to form or make a change of character by breaking that low. And what we're going to wait for price to do is return to an order block, but this time it did a liquidity sweep while it hit the 4-hour order block there, and that's when price started to shoot down. So the other reason is because it hit that daily order block. So the body, if we mark out the body of that daily order block, we can see that there's a lot of rejection at that area. So this further gives confluence to the sell or the reversal. So when we focus on what it was doing almost currently on the 1-hour chart, we can see that price did a wipe above that high, and after it did that wipe, it made a break of structure there. So it grabbed liquidity above that high and dropped down with it to break structure below that low. And when it returned back into the eternal range, it hit that 1-hour order block, and that's when it started to shoot down. So it also hit another order block, 1-hour order block within the range before it made the current move down, and which causes it to break structure below that low. But within that range, it also broke another low there, and what it did after it broke that low is it went back inside another small internal range by raiding stops above that high, and then after it raided stops above that high, it hit the mitigation block. And afterwards, after the mitigation block, that's when it made the plummet move down aggressive to even break structure on that low and also break another structure on the major low. So What I'm going to wait for price to do is to return back to that 30-minute order block, and after it returns back to that 30-minute order block, we wait for price to shoot down. So with the 117 USD account, I started placing my sell limit orders there, and yeah, I entered a bit aggressive. It wasn't bad. I wanted to make sure I squeeze everything because I was sure, I was confident in the setup, and that's what you guys have to do as well. If you're confident in a setup, you're going to have to enter a bit more aggressive. And yeah, so this is afterwards, and price, you can tell price did not spend a lot of time at our entry level. It just tapped and then it shot down, and we're already in about 90 USD profit after such a short amount of time, which is a good thing. We don't want price to keep on wiggling between our entry. And this is the afterwards. You can see price kept on shooting down, further down. Yeah, it had returned back up, but then the sell pressure was much aggressive here, and it kept on pushing price further down. So I think price did one more swing down, and yeah, I was about to close. Yeah, this is when I closed. I closed it around 370 something USD in profits, and we're getting there. We're getting to our profit target, which is around 400 USD. So yeah, I ended up closing all the trades at that point, but VIX 25S ended up shooting further down afterwards, and yeah, it kind of ate me a bit. Like, I should have held more, but yeah, at the end of the day, I think this was a good amount of profit to capture. So the next trade I went to is Boom 300 index. Yes, I went back to Boom 300 index. I thought, yeah, you know what, we milked it before, I can also gain some profit again. So on the daily, what we can see on the daily is that there was a bit of a bullish momentum on the daily, and if price was to move, I think it will move down due to that imbalance that has to be filled. But I had not yet reached my conclusion of the bias. So there's that imbalance there, and there's also an imbalance that has been rebalanced already, or a fair value gap that has already been filled. So when you look at it, you have to look within the range there. So marking out our range, there's the buy side liquidity there and the sell side liquidity below that low. So now what I'm going to be looking at is the market structure that goes on inside, where there is that daily order block, and price had already reacted off, but it had not tapped the body of the daily bearish order block. And there's also the bullish daily order block, and price had not also hit the body of the bullish order block. So when you zoom into the 4-minute chart or 4-minute time frame, we can see that when it was rebalancing, it hit the 4-hour order block and it reacted up from there. So before it hit, it also made a stop hunt while it hit the 4-hour order block, and then it went up to break structure above that high. After that, it returned back to the 4-hour order block, which pushed price higher. So it's like now tables are turning, markets want to go higher to break structure and just to keep on shooting high. It's like, yeah, we still have that buy momentum. It retraced back down to the mitigation block, and yeah, you can see it reacted nicely there. There was a nice rejection at the rejection block, at the mitigation block, and it kept on shooting up. So it formed that high, which contained the buy side liquidity and which is also near the body of the daily order block. So yeah, price formed sort of two equal highs there, and what's resting above there is, yeah, it's interesting. So yeah, it can also keep on going down, but yeah, I highly doubted it. So let's mark out the rejection block, and we can tell that on the 4-hour price has been heavily reacting off of that level or that zone. It was reacting off and it tried to shoot up into the buy side liquidity there, the internal buy side liquidity to the body of the daily order block, but it's been failing. So what is it doing right now? Before that, it made the break of structure and it created those equal highs there. So you see those two highs, they're equal highs, and above equal highs is a strong buy side liquidity. So there's the buy side liquidity in form of those two equal highs and that high, and also there's liquidity resting below the daily order block. So I think price has to shoot up to reach for that liquidity. But what is it doing right now? I announced that before. Right now, what I think is doing is it's headed below that. It has broken structure, of course. It had broken structure, but I don't think it's breaking structure to head down. It's breaking structure because it reached for that 1-hour order block or the stops below that low. So I think what it had to do is grab liquidity below that low while it hit the order block, the 1-hour order block, and now it's reversing to shoot up to the buy side liquidity that we had marked out. So when you move down to a smaller time frame, we start seeing the formation or the reversal where there's the break of structure there, and then there's another break of structure at that low. And after it made the break of structure right there, let me just adjust my trend line. After I made that break of structure, here comes the change of character that we had talked about previously. So there's that change of character. Now it's like price is reversing. So after I made the change of character, it dropped back down to fill the fair value gap. And while it was filling the fair value gap, you can see what it did. It just did not go back to fill and then move up. It filled the fair value gap after it did the stop hunt, and then after it grabbed there and filled, it went to break structure there. So our best bet is to buy at the 30-minute order block into the buy side liquidity above there and to fill the imbalance. And there's also another imbalance up there, so I bet the price when it shoots up, it has to shoot up, fill there, the imbalance there, and then also head for that higher imbalance above there. So where is it going to react off of? Yes, it filled that fair value gap. Where I think it's going to react off of is at the mean threshold. So when we mark out the Fibonacci or use the Fibonacci, we can see the premium and discount of that 30-minute order block, and then the mean threshold of the 30-minute order block is where I think is going to react off of. But there's also the 50-minute order block inside and another 5-minute order block after the fair value gap has been filled. So it filled the fair value gap and then there's another 5-minute order block. So I had to buy it. Now I want you to see, I was literally about to buy, and I want you to see this. Bam! When I go back, it had spiked up, and the psychology behind here is that I thought I was gonna miss it because it had already reacted off of the 5-minute order block. I wanted to buy it, so I started placing in trades here and I maxed out. So I maxed out there in form of like, yeah, it was fear of missing out. So this was FOMO. The trade was good, but the execution wasn't it. I think after it had spiked up, I should have relaxed maybe, but again, I didn't want to miss the move. So I understand we're still inside a smaller time frame. So yeah, I'd entered the buys and I'd maxed out on a 300 USD account, which was a huge risk, mind you. It was a huge risk, but price was not willing to shoot up for some reason. I don't know why. You can tell right now it's like it keeps on selling, and yeah, that's the same thing that came to my mind, like why does it keep on selling? Maybe it had to go back down again to make another tap and then shoot up, but it just kept on plummeting down. It was resisting, it did not want to shoot up, and yeah, it messes up your psychology. It's like you wouldn't want to keep on holding it, but at the same time, spikes can just emerge out of nowhere. Like maybe it taps the body of the 5-minute and then shoot up, but right now we're in like negative 150 something, and then by this time I was bleeding. We're in deep deep negatives. More than half of the account was gone. It was going, so I had to act up, and then I think this is when I decided, like, you know what, I don't think it's gonna spike anymore. So I decided to close the trade at about 186 USD negatives, and we're back down to 150 USD. Yeah, it happens. It happens. We faced a huge drawdown from 300 something to 150. It ended up going up, but it first did some market structure behind. So the next trade is on VIX 100S. So the next trade is V100S, and this one is a simple one. So we start off on the weekly where we mark out our low, which contains the sell side liquidity. And when you look above our range that we're marking out is the high, which contains the buy side liquidity. So within the range, what happened was there was an immediate rebalance, which forces price to shoot down, but it shot down to a daily order block, a bullish one, which forces price to shoot up, and this time it shot up to a fair value gap. So after it fills this fair value gap, it has to shoot down. So immediate rebalance plus coupled with the fact that it filled the fair value gap, prices should keep on shooting down. So prior to that, price had hit the bearish breaker block and it shot down, and currently it also hit another breaker block, the lower one within the fair value gap. So prices to shoot down. So if we can see the daily order block, price just tapped the low of it, or the week of the daily order block. So there's a lot of confluence going on around there. Fair value gap has been filled, it hit the daily order block, and it hit the breaker block. So it's sort of like they're in support of the bearish movement. So it went above the high, or it raided stops above that high, and it hit the 4-hour order block. So we can see that price, what it's planning to do is to grab liquidity above that high while it hit the many interest points or many PDI raise, the 4-hour order block, the breaker block. It fills the fair value gap, so it has to shoot down. On the 30-minute, price made a wipe there, and it made another wipe above that high there as well. Yeah, it's a BOS technically. And then the last one was a stop hunt. So using our past analysis, we know the next one is a change of character, which is a break of structure. It broke structure there and broke structure again in that low. So it broke two structures here, which means that the sell momentum is strong. So when it shoots down, it has to shoot down to that internal sell side liquidity, and it has to retrace back to the fair value gap and then shoot down. So there is that fair value gap or an imbalance that it has to fill, and immediately after it fills that imbalance, it has to dip down to the internal sell side liquidity below that low. So this is when I started placing my sell limits below the low, and I went in a bit aggressive again so that we get the account. This time my aim was no longer 1,000 or anything, it was just to regain profits at least to over 400, and then from there I think that's when we can withdraw. So I started placing the sell limits there, and yeah, that's about it. This is now what happened afterwards. So afterwards, check this out. Price didn't spend much time at our entry level. It just tapped and then it dropped. So yeah, the entry in the VIX 100S was precise. It was precise as the first one and the second one that we had entered. So yeah, I didn't spend much time. We never spend any amount of time in the negatives, and we just in profits from there. But it had to keep on shooting down to the internal sell side liquidity there, and that's we would collect profits after it wipes it, or at least drops into the consolidation area that's around there. I don't know if you can see the consolidation. There's the consolidation area there, so it had to like dip down there. That's why I kept on holding this position. And after some time, afterwards now the account was at 240 something USD, and it had went down below that low that I wanted it. It was already reacting off of the consolidation or the support zone that I had told you guys about, and I didn't want to keep on holding. I knew it was going to go back within the range and we'll try to find another sell there, but I doubted the sell again after it goes back within that range. So I decided I think I should just close the position, and that's when I closed it at 400 USD.